You're tuned in to More Living with Jim Brogan, broadcast live from the Brogan Financial Studios at News Talk 98.7, where old-fashioned values, expert knowledge, and genuine understanding come together to give you the retirement straight talk you deserve. Jim's a former National Advisor of the Year recipient and a financial educator, and he's here today to talk about how you can live out the best years of your life. Jim and the Brogan Financial team have been helping retirees and pre-retirees across the Southeast for over 20 years in their pursuit of financial independence. You can reach them during the week at 865-862-6800. So sit back, relax, and get ready to learn, because More Living with Jim Brogan starts now.
Hello, East Tennessee, and welcome to More Living with Jim Brogan, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. You're listening to News Talk 98.7 WOKI. And, you know, even though caricature art and satire have existed all throughout human history, our modern notion of political cartoons only began to appear in 18th century Europe. Humor and satire in the form of editorial cartoons have long been used to convey what is happening both in the community and the political landscape. Knoxville legend Charlie Daniel is known for his work as an editorial cartoonist for over 6 decades. His editorial cartoons have been a commentary on what is happening in the world by capturing a moment in time, whether public, political, or social, steeped in humor and satire. And, you know, I grew up in Knoxville, been here all my life, and as a kid growing up, I always loved it. And then even as an adult, even more so as an adult, because I understood the humor a little bit better. But it was always a highlight to see his cartoons. He was born in Richmond, Virginia. He grew up in Weldon, North Carolina. He was a private in the U.S. Marines. Thank you for your service, sir. And studied political science at the University of North Carolina, where he began drawing the daily Tar Heel campus newspaper in 1955. Charlie was hired by the Knoxville Journal in 1958 and thus began his profession as an editorial cartoonist. And when the Journal closed in 1992, he did move over and was hired by the Knoxville News Sentinel, where he remained until retiring in early 2019. Sir, it's a great honor to have you. Welcome to More Living.
Well, thank you, Jim. It's great to be here.
It's great to have you. As I say, I remember, you know, almost all of my life flipping to the section of the paper looking for the comic strip. As a kid, of course, you know, it was Peanuts, Archie, Beetle Bailey were there to start my day. First off, Charlie, how did you get interested initially in drawing cartoons?
Oh, it's a God thing. It was just, like you, I love the funny papers and I like to copy them. And that was my art training, was copying, Crazy Cat and Little Abner and Dick Tracy. And so I was just, cartoonists are born, not made, I always thought. So
you as a kid just would start imitating and drawing those same cartoons?
Certainly.
That's great. What is the difference? Talk to us about the difference between a regular cartoon or a comic strip versus an editorial cartoon.
Well, I personally think they all make social commentary. You know, Schultz was fantastic on making social commentary with Peanuts, and he surreptitiously got religion snuck in, and he was fantastic. So I don't really see a great difference between them.
There's always a sliver, even in the what we would think of as the more comic strips.
When I was in college, Pogo and Little Abner was totally social commentary, and you know, I was greatly influenced by Walt Kelly and Pogo. I came nowhere close to imitating his great artistic style. I was more in the line of Schultz and Harriman and Crazy Cat, that kind of art. But I love the social commentary that Walt Kelly did with Peanuts.
Absolutely. How in a typical week, how many cartoons would you typically draw, and then how many of those would actually make it to print?
I would usually do 3 or 4 ideas a day because there was so much going on. You know, you look at the paper and you're just making comments about whatever's going on, and then I would go in and show them to the editor, and we'd pick one to run the next day. So we figured out that I had actually published about well over 20,000 cartoons, and they're at the most of them are at the UT library now. I gave whatever cartoons were left that I hadn't already given away, I gave to UT Library, and they're digitizing them. So you can go online and go back to 1958 and see some not too well drawn cartoons. but
Well, it's amazing. So if you drew 4 or 5 a day, and basically you got with your editor and you picked one of them. So what happened to all the others? Did you save all those others, or did they end up in the trash bin?
Oh, I recycled them. Oh, yeah. They would be in the pile the next day, too. So basically the ones I like. So
editorial cartoons, they do have a certain look. And you mentioned yours was kind of, your style is from the artistic side, a little bit more like Schultz. But it's a way to communicate what is happening in the community and in the world. What initially drew you to the newspapers? Was it literally the comic strips when you were a kid? Is that what really drew you in?
Oh yeah. And then when I went in the Marines and I got out and got married and went back to Chapel Hill, and we moved in next door to a guy working his way through med school. His name was Jim Kiley, and one of the jobs he has was with the Daily Tar Heel. And he saw these doodles I kept doing, because whenever I picked up a pen or a pencil, I automatically started drawing. And so he took me down to the Daily Tar Heel, and they said if I would draw cartoons, they would run them. And so I was in business school at the time, and then I decided if I was going to draw political cartoons, I maybe ought to know something. So I switched to political science, and for the next 3 years I drew cartoons for the Daily Tar Heel and studied political science.
And it's not just artistic ability. I mean, you really got to have a shrewd, to do satire.
Oh, the idea.
Really
I was once told by a cartoonist that the drawing is 10% and the idea is 90%.
Absolutely.
So, if you got great ideas and you draw stick people, it works. So
absolutely, I agree with that. Now, as a freshman, well, some people may not know about you. As a freshman at North Carolina, you played football.
I originally went to Carolina on a football scholarship, and you were supposed to keep your grades up to level A, and my grades were a level C, and so I was getting drafted, and so this Marine gunny sergeant came into the induction center looking for a few good men, and my ego said, "Here I am," and the next thing I knew, I was a Marine, and still am. So,
but in football, you played offensive line.
I was very offensive lineman.
Yeah, you don't look.
I was 195 pounds.
Offensive guard.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and I was good.
You were crafty, I bet.
Yeah. Well, back then, guards were about 200 pounds or something, and tackles were 240, and now chilies are 240. So,
yeah, it is. It's amazing. But you had to be crafty though at 195, and of course, what do they say? Low man wins.
Yeah, well, I was quick too.
I'll bet.
Yeah. See, when I was good as a senior in high school, I went to Fork Union Military Academy to play football, and then I went a postgraduate year to play more football, and that's when I got scholarship offers from all over, and I went to UNC.
So after the freshman year, you got drafted, went into the Marine Corps. How long did you serve in the Marine Corps?
2 years.
And then you came back and went back to North Carolina.
Yeah, came back and got married, which was, and then I got my head on straight too. In the Marine Corps, I started using my brain, so.
Yes, sir. And then no more football, and that was when you started using your brain, so then your mind had to become very sharp and a lot of wit, to write satire like that. We're visiting with Charlie Daniel. We're talking about the art of editorial cartoons. He's really had such a career and been such a legend here in this area, especially. When we come back, we'll have more with Charlie. We're going to talk about all the stuff he's done about, political satire, corporate bedrooms, the whole 9 yards. So stay with us as you listen to More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
Welcome back. This is More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. We're visiting with Charlie Daniel this morning. The art of editorial cartoons has been such an incredible career, over 60 years. You retired, sir, at age 89?
89, yeah, in 2019, so.
Wow. What a career. You've created tens of thousands, you said over 20,000 editorial cartoons, and your cartoons are hung in places like the U.S. Senate, the House of Representatives. You'll see them in corporate bedrooms and refrigerators. We just walked into the station this morning and came straight in, and there was one of your cartoons there hung on the wall. Did you ever fear you would burn out or run out of material?
Not really. I guess every morning I would panic. You'd look at the blank sheet of paper and you'd say, "Oh God, where's the ideas going to come from?" But they always came, so I never really worried too much about it.
Now you would do sports stuff too. I loved your cartoon that you did on Rocky Top when Lake City was renamed Rocky Top. I was looking at that this morning. That was a great one. So did you just look? I mean, I guess you looked everywhere for inspiration because it wasn't just political. It was social. You did sports stuff. Can you comment a little bit about how you drew your inspiration to? You said you'd sit down, maybe it would be a blank piece of paper almost initially, but you always found the inspiration.
Yeah, well, Panic was my muse. So because every day you wonder, and I think all cartoonists go through that. Say, where the idea is going to come from, and they come, and you never really ask, where they actually come from. You just say thank you, and that's just the way you think.
Yeah.
So
your comic strip, Rosie's Diner, was a staple of the Sunday edition of the News Sentinel. What inspired you to start the Rosie's Diner comic strip?
Jack McElroy, the editor, they were redoing the perspective page, and he came to me and said, would you like to do something at the top of the perspective page, something different? And over the years I'd used diners as editorial cartoons. I'd have a situation where something was going on in a diner, because that's where people talk politics, and I could have the waitress or the server talking to whoever's sitting there. And so I thought that would be a great way to do a strip and do it in a diner. And I just picked Rosie as a name because it fit up top. So
it just fit naturally into what they were doing.
Yeah, and that was Rosie's Diner. And so and the No Hat No Service my editorial page editor, Barry Henderson, and I used to go out for lunch at this diner down from the old Journal, and we noticed that we were the only ones in there that weren't wearing caps. And we were the last ones to get waited on. And so that's where the no hat, no service sign came from that I always stuck up in Rose's Diner. So.
That's really, really funny. Now, the subjects of your cartoons. You know, Bill Haslam said, for as long as I can remember, Charlie has been making us laugh and think. And he said, I usually even laughed at the ones about me, though surely my nose isn't that round or my smile that goofy. That kind of compliment is evident that you did what editorial cartoons are supposed to do, is make people think and laugh at the same time. But were you ever concerned about someone being upset or offended by what you said or drew?
I bought my favorite letter that I got. That I'll share it with you. I love it. Dear Mr. Daniel, today's cartoon was the lowest you have ever sunk. Inflammatory, ill-conceived, and snide little cartoons like yours don't speak any great truths. They just expose you as a partisan parrot that speaks without thinking, a cartoonist with no connection between brain and pen. I love that, and you get quite a few of those, so that was my all-time favorite. No connection between brain and pen. So hopefully that wasn't true, but
it was not true at all, and your career is a testimony to that. The subjects you would do often, like say a Lamar Alexander or a Bill Haslam, or or a Johnny Majors or a Phil Fulmer or whatever. When I'm sure you met most of these people that you would, that were famous, that you would draw regularly. What was it like the first time you would meet somebody who had been the subject of your satire?
Well, I usually apologize and say, "Gee, I'm sorry." No, I don't know. They most people. I'm amazed. You would think you'd really lampoon some politician, and they would write you or call you and ask for the original, which is good strategy on their part, because you would think, well, golly, they're pretty good guys, and so.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, because if you're the subject, you certainly would prefer the person that's behind the brush to like you, even if they're doing some satire.
Yeah, so.
Right? So you did do some work as an illustrator for numerous books, such as When It's Football Time in Tennessee, a celebration of Tennessee's football traditions. You also have several books that are collections of your drawings, such as Eat Your Greens, which I've got here right in my hand. Thank you so much for bringing that.
Yeah, I just did that. That was my retirement book. And I'd over the years, I'd done these light verses that I thought were pretty clever. And so a friend of mine encouraged me to illustrate them. And so, and then I had done, Sam Venable had come out with a book last year and asked me to do the cover and to illustrate each chapter. And so, I did that. It was, naked dining, isn't on our menu or something. So I did a Rose's Diner with a guy with no clothes on, but a hat, sitting at the, Rose's table. And so, and naked dining is not on our menu. And then I got, Sam's wife, Mary Ann, I would go around their house and we would talk over the book, and I talked Mary Ann into, helping me do my, Eat Your Greens book. And so with her aid, we did that. And I filled it up at the very end with, caricatures of the 10 presidents I'd drawn over my 60-year career. And so
yeah, this is great. I'm looking at them right now. Yeah. It's really amazing. How do you have over 20,000 cartoons, and how do you pick the ones that go in this book? how do you whittle that down and be able to put them in here?
Well, that book is just illustrations of my light verse, and then I just redid the caricatures that I'd done over the years. So,
well, I can't. And where can people get a copy of this book?
Well, you can get it through Amazon. Or Barnes Bookstore, Barnes Pharmacy in Powell has them on display, and then Litton's, not Litton's, but Pratt's, out on Jacksboro Pike, and where you can buy your greens and buy the Eat Your Greens book.
Okay, so they've got it there, and then, of course, you can get it through Amazon. It's called Eat Your Greens, Light Verse and Drawings by Charlie Daniel. You mentioned the University of Tennessee's libraries, their library special collections department has established the archive of more than 20,000 of your pre-pressed drawings. You mentioned you think it's over, total that you've had published have been over 20,000. Do you have a favorite, or do you have a favorite subject or a favorite person over the years that really was kind of your favorite?
Oh, no, not really. No, I get asked that a lot, and you really don't. So, whatever's there at the moment. So, whatever
with inspiration comes into your mind.
Yeah, and then, you never look back, Then.
It's interesting because, I'm a creative. I'm more right brain. I'm more, I'm a creative, as is my wife. We met singing professionally. But even as a creative, it just boggles my mind that someone for 60 years was able to consistently put out that much good, consistently outstanding satire. I mean, because as you said, 10%'s the drawing, the other 90% are is the idea. That's just amazing to me.
Well, you really try not to think about it, you just, the ideas just come, and I saw an interview one time with Johnny Mercer, and he was talking about writing Moon River, wider than a mile. I'm crossing you in style someday, and he got we're after the same rainbows and waiting around the bend, and he said, What? And he was stuck, waiting around the bend, and then it hit him, my huckleberry friend. And he said, where did that come from? Oh. And that's the way you look at, I look at ideas that, where did that come from? You just say, be thankful it came.
Can you think, sir, about a time where you walked in somewhere and where it was maybe as big of a surprise as ever to see one of your drawings on the wall? Like where you walked in somewhere and all of a sudden, whether it was traveling or and been surprised like that? Did you ever have a time like that?
Downstairs when I walked in, and that was a Bobby Denton thing I'd drawn years ago, sitting up on the wall.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. We're visiting with legendary editorial cartoonist Charlie Daniel. When we come back, we'll have more with Charlie. We'll also have our Dollars and Cents segment. Do you need a living trust, or is a will sufficient to pass your estate to your loved ones? Stay with us. This is More Living with Jim Brogan here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
Welcome back. This is More Living with Jim Brogan, where it's all about living the best years of your life your way. We're visiting this morning with Knoxville legend Charlie Daniel. His editorial cartoons have been a commentary on what is happening in the world by capturing a moment in time for over 6 decades. Quite a career and really legendary. Before we get back to Charlie, however, it is time for Dollars and Cents.
Want to be sure you are getting the most out of your retirement? For all the years of your retirement? That's That's the primary goal of More Living with Jim Brogan and our Dollars and Cents segment, where we provide you with an important financial tip that will help positively impact the quality of your life in retirement. And now, here's Jim with this week's Dollars and Cents tip.
Do you need a trust, or is a will sufficient to pass your assets to your loved ones? You know, I get that question a lot, and really what that's asking is, do I need a revocable living trust? Because, you know, you're looking at what legal document is going to control your stuff and get it to who you want it to go to, maybe create restrictions, you know, all that kind of stuff. But what legal document delivers it to those places? Is it your will, or do you have everything in a living trust, or you name a living trust as beneficiary? And we get that question a lot. And it's interesting because there are some states around the country where you definitely don't want to have property, real property, not in a living trust. So the most common reason is because anything that your will is going to control in terms of how it goes to whomever, it has to go through probate. Probate in Latin actually means prove the will. So if you have an asset that is going to be governed by your will at death, by definition, it is going through probate. Now, if that asset is in a living trust, then it does not go through probate. And so now it's also important to understand other things, like if you name a beneficiary on an account, the beneficiary designation overrides everything. It supersedes the will. It supersedes the trust document. All that matters legally is what's on the beneficiary form. Now, if you name the trust as beneficiary, that will put it in there. But if the if the beneficiary names your kids and everything else is in a trust, the IRA is going to the kids. It's not going into the trust. So it's critically important to how these things are passed. The only way you can get real property, though, to your kids, you know, is with without probate, is with a living trust. Now, Tennessee, what's our probate process like? It's really not that complicated. Our probate, all of our, honestly, estate planning laws in the state of Tennessee, we're one of the best in the country at giving people ease, efficiency, save on taxes. I mean, we don't have any inheritance or death tax. You know, most states do. I could go on and on and on. So, you know, if those of you listening today, those of you that have been executors before, if I did a straw poll and asked you about the probate process here in Tennessee, most likely half of you'd probably say it really wasn't much to it, and the other half might say it was a pain in the neck. Tennessee, comparatively to other states, is not terribly difficult. So the reason I bring that up is, you know, you can get all of your assets to your kids without probate, without a trust, just by naming beneficiaries and how you title assets. But you can't do that with your real property, your house, you know, and other real property. So, you know, the point is, if you do planning with a living trust as opposed to a will, then it's going to cost you more money up front. Now, then it may be that your kids don't have to hire an attorney when you pass away, and it saves them money in the end because they don't have to probate and they don't have to pay an attorney to help them probate. So all those are factors. But, you know, if, in my opinion, and I'm not an attorney, okay, but I talk to attorneys all the time, and in my opinion, you know, if you don't have a lot of real property or a large estate, you know, several $1 million, then it's probably not worth spending the extra money to have a living trust unless there are extenuating circumstances with your beneficiaries or something like that. So now having property in multiple states, that is a classic reason why you would consider a living trust because, you know, the properties are probated in the state where that property is. So if you have a beach condominium in South Carolina, that's going to be probated in South Carolina. So if you do a living trust, you can put that property in the trust. It doesn't have to be probated. All right. But just be careful because I have found a lot of attorneys, they kind of firmly believe in one or the other. Like I believe you should do everything through your will. Others will say, I believe you should almost always do things through living trust. And the answer's in the middle. You know, and to me, a good attorney is going to ask you what it is you're wanting to accomplish, listen to that, and then kind of show you the different ways to accomplish what you're trying to get and help you pick the one that's most ideal for your needs. So, but it is very, very important to understand how are things passed to your heirs when you pass away, and then how will they receive those assets? Will they get them all up front? Will it be over time? Do you need any kind of controls or protections for the kids? All very, very important questions that need to be answered.
That's our Dollars and Cents segment for this week. You can find this week's Dollars and Cents segment and others by visiting BroganFinancial.com.
Do please check us out online, BroganFinancial.com. You can click on resources and pull up a lot of resources. You can also click on resources and go to our the university classes we teach. We've got a class coming up in October. Thrive Financially in Retirement is at Pellissippi State, Hardin Valley, and then we've also got a one-night class in November on tax planning. Today, we're just an honor to visit with legendary editorial cartoonist Charlie Daniel, who worked here at the Knoxville News Sentinel and the Knoxville Journal going way, way back over 6 decades. And, you know, we mentioned such a long career. You retired in 2019. We mentioned you were 89. By the way, you don't look 89 now, if I might say. That was 5 years ago. You don't look like you're 89 now.
I look 94 now.
No, sir. You and getting up down the stairs, I mean, you look like you're have kept yourself in great physical shape.
Well, I swim 4 days a week.
Oh, swimming's so good for you.
Oh, isn't it though? Yeah, I had it Tanovo out off Emory Road. You know, it's now the Tanovo Y Health Center.
Did you swim when you were younger? Did you swim growing up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was always.
Yeah, because most people, they don't really swim if they weren't a swimmer. I'm a swimmer. I love to swim. I grew up swimming competitively. And unfortunately, when the pandemic hit, I kind of fell out of habit, and I've had a hard time getting back into habit. But 4 days a week, you still at 93, 94 years old, you go swim.
Yeah, I go at 6:30 in the morning and meet the crowd, and then I come back and fix breakfast for my wife Patsy. We've been married 70 years, and I've learned it's best to fix her breakfast. And
you're a wise man. Married for 70 years. Holy cow. We could do a whole show just on the secret to a happy marriage. How hard was it to step away from the news desk?
Very hard because, well, it just wasn't easy and I didn't realize how much pressure, I was under to come up with an idea until I stepped away and didn't have to come up with ideas.
I would think that kind of mental brain acuity, coming up with ideas like that. You know, I mentioned you're in great physical condition. Your mind is as sharp as sounds like as sharp as ever. I would imagine, I mean, I'm not asking you to answer a medical question, but it just seems like all of that work you did with your brain had to have been good for you, because you're mentally just so sharp today, even at 94.
Well, the trick is, see, I didn't use my brain until I was 24 when I came out of the Marine. So my brain is still back in about 70 years old.
That's right. I don't know how many of us did use our brain though when we were, you know, especially when we were teenagers.
Oh yeah, I certainly didn't. So.
That's great. Tell you what, we're going to go to our last break, and we come back. We're going to have a little bit more with Charlie Daniel. I want to know if he cheers for the Tar Heels or the Vols. That's what I want to know. So stay with us. This is More Living with Jim Brogan here at News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
Welcome back to News Talk 98.7's Brogan Financial Studios, where Jim Brogan is coming to you live with important news and advice to help you achieve your dream retirement. Get ready to learn and live. Here's your host, Jim Brogan.
This is More Living here on News Talk 98.7 WOKI. Thanks for tuning in as we've been visiting with legendary editorial cartoonist Charlie Daniel. And I've learned so much. You just seem like you're oozing wisdom. I mean, 94 years of wisdom, but you said you didn't start using your brain till you were 24, 25. So I guess 70 years of wisdom.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Okay, so I mentioned, you played offensive guard at the University of North Carolina, got your degree there. Then you came here. You've been here most of your life, but, your college years were North Carolina. Are you a Tar Heel or are you a Vol?
Oh, I'm a Tar Heel. I really am. I'll pull for the Vols until they play Carolina, and then I'm all Carolina. So I was very happy that the Vols clobbered NC State.
I'll bet.
And NC State, not my favorite. So
I can imagine. What do you do? What do you do now to stay active? I mean, you mentioned 4 days a week you're swimming. What else are you doing to keep your mind sharp?
I play solitaire on the internet. No, and then I doodle. I still doodle whenever I pick up a pen, which I usually keep in my hand, and I draw on any piece of paper. We've got envelopes from mail we get, and I've drawn.
You doodle on them.
Yeah, I just can't. I've been doing it ever since I was 2 years old or something. So.
That's amazing. You mentioned Patsy. You've been married for over 70 years. So she became your high school sweetheart, but you knew her before then. Can you tell us a little bit about how you met Patsy and a little bit about that story?
We met in the second grade. She and on Valentine's Day in the second grade, she lived across the river in Gettysburg. I was in Weldon, and Gettysburg is across the river. And my father bought a box of Valentine candy, and I wrote to Patsy on it, and we rode across the river and went to her house and knocked on the door, and her older sister came to the door, and I gave the older sister the candy, and so Patsy never realized that she said that I bought her candy, but my box of candy was among many that she got, and so I pursued her until we were juniors in high school when we actually started dating, and so.
And so you kept dating all through, even while you were in the military, and.
Oh, it was a done deal when I went off to the Marines. It was just a matter of when I got back, we'd get married. So we were more or less engaged.
So you got married when you got back and then went to finish up at North Carolina,
Oh,
right?
Yeah, went back on the GI Bill.
Yes, sir. My father went to the University of Tennessee on the GI Bill.
Yeah.
So valuable.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, one of the great things that this country has ever done, I think.
Yeah, my dad, he didn't even know about the GI Bill when he enrolled in the Navy, and he had grown up the 10th of 13 kids in a 2-room house, son of a coal miner. And so he'd farm in the mornings, walk to school, come back. I mean, it was tough childhood.
Oh, wow.
And he always said, when he graduated high school, he enrolled in the Navy. He said, I don't ever want that life for me and my family. And so he joined the Navy, and he ended up staying an extra year in the Navy, and it was he barely overlapped with the beginning of the Korean War. So he was just a year or two older than you are, I think. And he stayed on for one more year of duty, and then he didn't even know it, but that extra year qualified him for the GI Bill.
Oh, wow.
And so it's just really amazing. The only problem is we could never get him to take us on a cruise, on a big ship, because he walked off a ship in the Navy. He said, I'm never getting on a big ship like that ever again.
That was it.
Yes, sir. What's your one or two biggest tips, sir, to have a long-lasting marriage over 70 years?
You say yes. Yeah. Once you say yes, when they say, do you take this woman to be your lawful wedded wife, and you say yes, and you just continue saying yes.
You never stop saying yes.
Oh, no, that's it.
Can you tell us about your days now? I mean, you mentioned you do some online solitaire and you swim 4 days a week. But what does your typical week look like?
Well, I have 4 great-grandchildren, and they all live here in Knoxville, and so we have a ball with them. So that's a good way to stay young, too, is have great-grandchildren.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, sir, it has been such a privilege and an honor to have you on with us. I've been excited about this show since we were able to reach out to you and establish contact and get you booked. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. It's been a real honor and privilege.
Well, like I told you, Jim, this was the highlight of my week, so I've got nothing else to do except swim.
I need to get back in. That's an inspiration. I got to get back in the water. Swimming is so good for you. I never feel better than when I swim. So again, thank you. You've taken such great care of yourself. I know many in the community, many of you listening today have met Charlie Daniel, and it's just, as I say, just great having you with us. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jim.
Yes, sir. That's Charlie Daniel, legendary editorial cartoonist with the Knoxville Journal initially, and then the Knoxville News Sentinel. I want to talk about a few upcoming things. We've got my upcoming classes at Pellissippi State, Hardin Valley, and we have one coming up. If you go to broganfinancial.com and you click on resources and then click on classes, you'll be able to go straight to that, all of our upcoming classes. And the next one is on October the 15th and the 22nd. It is a 2-part class at Pellissippi State, Hardin Valley. Thrive financially in retirement. We're going to talk about protecting your money with effective tax strategies. We're going to talk about the CARES Act. We're going to talk about the national debt and deficit spending. We're going to talk about all kinds of things. There are 7 major areas we cover in that 2-night class, so we would love to see you there. You can go to PellissippiRetirementPlanning.com, and you can download a syllabus, and you can also click to register. Again, that's on October 15th and 22nd. And then we have a 1-night tax planning class at Pellissippi State, Hardin Valley on Tuesday, November the 12th, and it is just a 1-night class. And it is specifically about tax planning. So, in that class, we kind of expand on the tax area. We do cover some of the stuff in that class that we cover in the more general 2-part class, but then we dive even deeper into tax planning. I do want to mention on the will or trust conversation that I did in my retirement minute today, I just want to stress the importance of also understanding when you name beneficiaries, the importance of the beneficiary designation. As I mentioned in that dollars and cents segment, the beneficiary designation legally by law rules the asset. So, in other words, it doesn't matter what's in your will. It doesn't matter what's in your trust document. If you have a beneficiary designation, let's say for life insurance or for an IRA or 401k, and you've named your kids, then it's not going into your trust. And so it's critically important to understand that. It's important also to understand the tax ramifications when your kids inherit a retirement account, because you haven't paid the income tax on most, if not all, of that money. So if you don't pay it, who's going to pay it? Well, they're going to have to pay it. And how they deal with that is so critically important. I was just visiting with someone this week, and they have 3 kids, and they were going to leave their retirement accounts to one kid because they said he's the oldest. I know he'll give the proper amounts. He'll split it and give it to the other 2 kids. Well, the problem is you can't just give an inherited IRA or 401k to your sibling. You instead have to cash the account in, pay all the income taxes, and then give it to them. So that's a problem. So, it's better to name the 3 kids individually. If there are concerns about control, then leave it into trust with the oldest child as the trustee for the benefit of the 3 children. So it's just crucially important to understand. I think beneficiary designations and understanding how retirement accounts are passed, probably the most overlooked area in estate planning. So doing your legal documents, understanding, do you need is a will sufficient? Do you need a trust? How do you name beneficiaries? All of those things, critically important. So consult with your attorney, or I'm happy, our clients engage us. We work with their attorney to help them craft an effective plan. We have visited this morning with Charlie Daniel, legendary editorial cartoonist who has contributed to this community for over 60 years. We've discussed community so you can live the best years of your life your way. Thank you for tuning in. This has been More Living with Jim Brogan on News Talk 98.7 WOKI.
The views expressed by Jim Brogan and his guests are not that of Cumulus Media. Any discussion of financial, legal, and tax planning strategies is not intended to be individualized advice and is general in nature. Always consult with your advisor for advice specific to your needs. This program's content does not represent a recommendation of any particular security, strategy, or investment by Jim Brogan or Brogan Financial Incorporated.